We are back once again on Full Moon Fridays here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. My name is Matthew. Joining me here in Nebraska, where the weather is somewhat decent today, finally, is Steve.
Yep, I'm back. I feel reinvigorated.
Yes. And we're excited about tonight's film, obviously. Puppet Master Littlest Reich. It is directed by two Swedish directors. I assume they're famous in your country, Borp. Is this correct?
Never heard of these guys before.
I don't think they've done anything since this movie either. I was kind of looking on
Right.
IMDb. It didn't look like they'd done much of anything after this. But yes, we are talking The Littlest Reich. This is outside of the canon, quote unquote, universe of Puppet Master, if such a thing even exists.
It doesn't.
None of these movies match up with each other at all. We decided to do this. Why, Steve? Why did we put this in the middle of our Puppet Master marathon?
We needed a palate cleanser. We were on a streak of 4 absolutely garbage Puppet Master movies with basically no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Like we were struggling to keep the interest for this watch along.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of like the reason behind it. Now, Borp, you pointed out last episode that, hey, I think that actually got cut off at the end because our Zencaster failed. But you had mentioned to us that two Swedish directors co-directed this thing. Were you pretty excited to go into this?
I was. I had heard some good things about this film. And yeah, two Swedish directors somehow got the job to do this. I wonder how that happened. They have done a film from like 2012 that was not well received at all, like very low budget Swedish Evil Dead copy called Wither. That I Yeah, it's like so low budget. And it somehow got put into theaters over here. I missed it. But yeah, it's just a really weird trajectory. And I was looking up information on this, like trying to find information both on English websites and then on Swedish websites of like, have they done any interviews about this? Because I wonder how this happened, but I was not able to find anything. Maybe that's on some special feature somewhere.
I feel like maybe they're not doing any interviews because I learned after watching this that it has this movie had some behind the scenes issues that might be plaguing future installments of this series.
Right, right. But I was like, not even like in the promotion for this, I was able to find what the hell was going on with this. But yeah.
See, this amuses me because we have this thing in our Discord where anytime someone comes across an article that mentions Sweden in any way, shape, or form, usually Matt posts it. It's like Borp at Borpan in the Discord. Look at this article that mentions Sweden, and now here we are in an actual show, and he's like, Borp, Swedish people are involved in this movie.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this could be a movie he's proud of. That a couple of directors from his country made this. We'll find out. We'll see. But yeah, so we're talking The Littlest Reich. This is actually written by S. Craig Zoller. This is the guy who made Bone Tomahawk and like Dragged Across Concrete, and this guy's a talented dude. And I remember when I first heard that he was writing a new Puppet Master movie, it shocked me because I was like, why would this guy be slumming around doing this? But then I thought to myself, well, geez, if I had that kind of power, that I was like making good movies and someone's like, hey, you want to write a Puppet Master movie? I'd be like, hell yeah, I want to write a Puppet Master movie. So I totally understand why he would have done it. And
We got
I
a
was
puppet script. Someone give us a budget.
Yeah, for sure. So I was kind of going into this, looking forward to it because puppets are bad guys in this one, and I don't know if we've actually seen puppets as bad guys yet, right? I mean, so because they're only the bad guys in 1 and 2, right? We haven't gotten to 1 and 2 yet.
No. This is the first time in Full Moon Friday that we've seen evil puppet.
Yeah,
this is
the
the first
Nazi
time that we've
puppets.
seen
Yeah,
just evil puppets.
yeah, because we haven't
There's no
seen
like
Nazi
corresponding
puppets.
good guy side, right?
Right. So yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and get into it. Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich. Nowhere is Charles Band anywhere near this thing. So is it better? Is it worse? We're about to find out. Steve, take it away.
So it starts off back in 1989 at some random bar in Texas, and in walks an old man who's like heavily scarred. I think he's been burned, like his ear looks melted to his head, and he
The
starts
great Udo
hitting.
Kier, by the way.
Okay, well he starts hitting on a female bartender, and then the female bartender starts making out with her girlfriend in the bar, and let's just say that this man that we learn is the new Andre Toulon is not happy to have witnessed lesbians, and so he sends his puppets to kill them. And so the way that oh, this movie is so problematic.
Yeah.
I wish Rachel was here, but so the way that puppets work in this world, like there's no green reanimator juice. Andre Toulon goes and lays down on this metal slab, and there are like metal stakes coming out of the ceiling, and like purple lightning shoots between him and the stakes, and it seems like he's like directly controlling them in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. That's how it works in this movie. This movie doesn't answer too many questions about what's going on. Shit's just happening. But some cops show up, and the cops notice some bloody puppet-sized footprints. I think is what they saw. Like, I wasn't super clear on how they made it back to Toulon's mansion, but somehow they figure out that Toulon is the killer, and so the cops go into the to Toulon's mansion and kill him. And so then
We don't see that though, right?
we
Because we
hear
see Barbara.
gunshots.
We see
Yeah,
Barbara Crampton go in and she shoots, but we don't actually see what happens, which I
No,
thought was
right.
kind of weak. It's like, why don't you just show him? Show Barbara Crampton shooting Udo Kier. Why would you not film that unless he wasn't actually
yeah.
around?
Maybe Udo Kier wasn't available that day. He makes a lot of money.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, we hear gunshots, and Toulon is now presumed dead. So then it cuts to, I guess, like the modern day for this movie, which is like 2018, 2019. It's 30 years later, essentially. And there's going to be, well, let's talk about our main characters. Our main characters are a guy named Edgar, who is I don't know if he's famous, but he is a published comic book writer and artist. But he's working in a comic book shop with his boss, a guy named Markowitz. And Edgar is recently divorced, and so he has to like move back in with his parents because I guess he's been kicked out of the marital home. He has a shitty relationship with his dad, which ultimately like is completely irrelevant to the movie. The only part of his home life that really matters to us is one, he starts dating a neighbor named Ashley, and two, he has a brother that died via mysterious circumstances years ago, and the brother had one of Toulon's puppets. And so the town where the Toulon mansion is going to host a basically a horror convention centered around the Toulon murders. Now, they have no idea that these are killer puppets. It's just there was a killer who happened to make puppets, and now these puppets are collector's items. And so Edgar and Ashley and Markowitz are going to go to this horror convention, and Edgar's goal is he just wants to sell the puppet, which is like blade like. I don't know if some of the puppets, I don't know that they really get names in this, but there are multiple blade-ish puppets in this movie, and that
Yeah.
happens to be one of the ones that Edgar has.
One has like long white hair. One has like
has
no hair at all.
One's missing an arm. I don't know. I don't know what they're actually called in this. But Edgar's going to go sell Not Blade for some quick cash. But as part of a ticket to the horror convention, you get to go on a tour of Toulon's mansion. And so they go to Toulon's mansion, which is, I don't know, just like down the road from this hotel they're in, I guess. And Barbara Crampton leads them on the tour. And so we get the backstory of Toulon. Toulon, in the complete counter to the other movies, like Toulon himself was a Nazi in this continuity. And he's got all this Nazi memorabilia. He created all of these puppets. They talk about all the terrible things that he did to his victims, specifically like Jewish women. They were a big target of his. Barbara Crampton is the cop that killed Toulon back in the day. So this scene doesn't really do anything but like provide a backstory for Toulon, and we also learn that Toulon is just like buried like on this property still. Like there's like a mausoleum built, and like an unknown Toulon family member claimed his body and just built a little corpse hut off to the side. So Toulon is still like here in this town, his corpse anyway.
Yeah. Can I say something about this sequence here?
Yes.
First, I love Barbara Crampton in this. I think she does a really good job as sort of the cop. But you know how they always say like show, don't tell in movies? This is a case in which I'm happy they just told and did not show. Because
Yes.
the stuff that she's claiming that, Toulon was doing, it's like I don't want to see any of that. I'll take
And
your word for it, Barbara.
I think it also makes sense because they're on a tour. It's not like
Yeah.
these characters, like if these characters were like reading a book about Toulon's war crimes, then I would probably more expect some flashbacks to some visuals to accompany that. But I think just like letting her tell and not show makes sense in this particular scene here. But anything that I missed up to this point? This is
I
actually like a 90-minute movie, so I'm trying
yeah,
to
yeah.
like pick up the pace a little bit.
Uh, Nothing that you missed, but I do want to add on to this idea that it's from the writer is the same guy who made Dragged Across Concrete this exact same year, and like when you look at these two movies, they are so different from one another, but then they're also so incredibly similar in their type of humor. And I remember seeing, his run of movies that he's directed, which is a lot better than this movie, to be to be clear. But I remember seeing like Bone Tomahawk and Brawl and Cellblock 99. I'm like, I kind of want this guy to write a comedy because his style of comedy is so um I don't know. It's very peculiar in a way that I don't think these directors 100% knew what to do with this material. I think he's a writer very much like a Tarantino that like he should direct his own stuff because it's so I don't know. It's just so of its own type of thing. But like that was a thing that like really struck me with this watching this very silly puppet movie of like oh this guy's writing really comes through if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it comes through. I think that, and we'll probably get to it. I think the directing by these two guys, like Sonny Laguna and was it Tommy Wickland or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think they direct this film well at all. I think it's
Yeah.
poorly directed, all things considered. But you're right with the writing, Abort, because there's stuff in here I was like laughing. And Steve knows I'm not a big comedy guy, but there were moments in this where I was laughing. Like the whole we haven't gotten to it yet, but like when Markowitz and the guy at the thing is like, "Oh, you must be Markowitz. Why? Because I'm a Jew." Are you Markowitz? Yeah. Then there's nothing to be concerned about now, is there? It was
It's like
just
I guessed
it's so funny.
correctly, therefore you can't be mad.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
Right.
just
Yeah.
that kind of stuff is funny, and it. I know exactly what you're saying. It's that sort of weird sort of, and the lead character in this, he's so like deadpan and dry. It's like he's not. He just seems very. What's the word I'm looking for? The comedy comes through like sort of like the way the actors are portraying the writing more so than the directors directing them how to do it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, 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 totally. Because I do actually think a lot of this movie would be like funnier if it had better directing. Like I don't think a lot of the
Yeah.
jokes fell flat because of the writing. It's more of just the way it's done. So, but yeah, that was just one thing I wanted to bring up.
All right.
Continue,
Well,
Steve.
the tour of the Toulon mansion is over, so everyone goes back to the hotel planning for this convention, and then suddenly all the puppets go missing. Uh, and at first, people think that the puppets are stolen. Like people know that these puppets. And by the way, there's like 40 or 50 puppets, so it's not like a
Yeah.
small like group of puppets like previous movies. There's 40 or 50 puppets, and there are like multiple blades and multiple tunnelers and whatnot. Um, but the puppets start going missing, and so the cops are called, and it starts out as just like a stolen property investigation. And so the cop is trying, where were you at this time? Did anyone who knew the value of this? And then people start dying, and we get like an extended scene of like basically every variation of puppet waking up and killing someone. There is a robot puppet with like a helicopter blade on the end of his hand, and so he can fly around. And so a dude is getting up to take a piss, and the robot puppet chops his head off, and then his head falls in the toilet, and then his decapitated corpse continues to piss on his head. A blade puppet kills a man and a woman having sex. There are just, I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, there's
Yeah,
just an extended puppet murder scene with
It's like the
the
pregnant woman.
highlight. Yeah, that's
yeah,
what I'm getting to. So like, there's a pregnant woman who there's a puppet, and I looked up this puppet's name because it's not revealed, and his name is Moneylender, and he
I mean, it's
is
not funny. It's not funny. But it's funny, if that makes any sense.
like,
The way this
imagine
is like done, it's like, oh my god.
imagine like the most like racist, like Jewish like caricature that like a Nazi person would draw, and there's a puppet of that Jewish caricature, and
Is
his
this
name is
worse than Kamikaze? That's the
oh,
question. Is that
100%,
more offensive than
absolutely.
Kamikaze?
I think
What?
absolutely this is more offensive.
We'll have to show it to Rachel and find out. Rachel, which is more offensive, Kamikaze or Moneylender?
Yeah, so Moneylender goes and sees there's a pregnant woman just on bed in like a nightgown and underwear, and Moneylender just basically burrows into her vagina and bursts through her stomach and then steals her fetus and runs away.
Yeah,
There are
I mean,
multiple like that's the one, the main one that comes to mind, but like I said, there is an extended sequence of like, I don't know, 8 or 9 puppets just massacring solo people that are off on their own. And it's good. Like, we wanted
yeah,
evil puppets
yeah,
killing people.
yeah. I mean, last time I was like, there's like the last movie. I'm like, there's no puppet shit, and here it feels like a bunch of people who aren't Charles Band was like, hey, let us make this movie about these puppets actually killing people.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that they set out to do a thing and they did the thing. There's probably a better way you could have paced this out. But I was just I mean, I had like a smile on my face when this segment started because I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, now we're just in Insanityville here. Like, okay, no one
yeah.
actually, no one
It feels
actually. Sorry,
no, go
continue.
ahead. It feels very awkward to say that this is good because you quickly realize that Toulon is a Nazi. All of the people being killed are Jewish people, gay people, and black people.
But that was such a like ridiculous reveal. Like oh god, I laughed really hard when they're like, are these puppets committing hate crimes? I'm like, I guess they
Yes,
are. I guess
yes.
yeah, I guess this movie. I'm like, yeah, sure,
This
It
sure.
feels
this
so
has a
wrong to have enjoyed this, but I did.
You know what I find sort of a good sort of analogy is like a trauma film, right? So a trauma
Right.
film, they will go out of their way to sort of be as sort of transgressive as they can with this kind of stuff, and they couch it in sort of humor and comedy and sort of fun. They're not. It's weird to say there wasn't a mean spiritedness to it, but there kind of wasn't. It was so over the top and
Yeah.
ridiculous, and when you understand the concept of what the film is, these are actually like, I don't know if they're alive or it's just this Nazi Udo Kier. Toulon is like his spirit is doing all this himself or what, but it's a Nazi. This is what a Nazi would do, and yeah, you're right. It's like the old adage in filmmaking: give them what they want. We wanted puppets murdering people in gruesome, fun, creative ways, and that's what they gave us. They're just like,
Yeah.
fine, here, we're not going to limit this to just a few puppets. Let's do 50 puppets. We're not going to put Jester in this movie because fuck Matthew. We don't care what he would want. Heaven forbid, we could actually put Jester in a movie and make him do something cool. But I digress.
Let's before we continue on the plot, like let's talk about all the puppets, because there's multiple like iterations of Blade, and I don't actually remember if they're
Yeah,
called Blade, if they got a separate name. Like I said, there's one with hair, there's one that's bald, there's one that's missing an arm. There's
there's a
a
weird
Pinhead.
frog one or
I like the
something.
frog
Yeah,
guy. I like
I
the
looked
frog
up all the
guy.
names. His name is Happy Amphibian. So Happy Amphibian is like a frog puppet. There's Moneylender. There's a version of Pinhead in this. Tunneler's in this. There's also an alternate Tunneler, which is like a hedgehog or a mole of some sort with the drill on his head.
There's Torch. There's like a version of
Yeah, his
Torch.
name is Kaiser. I looked him up. So
Yeah.
he is not Torch. Um, I mean, I think I like I don't know. Like at first, I like the kind of like traditional looking puppets like Tunneler and Pithead and Blade, and it's like I saw like the frog puppet, and there are several puppets that just look like robots that I could go and buy like for $5 at Walmart. And like at first, I wasn't thrilled with like the non-traditional puppet designs, but they all like ended up growing on me by the end. There's one
They all do
puppet,
cool stuff.
yeah. There's
Definitely.
one specific puppet that I've not talked about yet that I'm gonna wait. Like what
Okay.
was your favorite puppets of like the new ones that we saw?
I like the guy who fly around with his like put his arm up and then turn into a propeller. That was like looked really stupid. Yeah, I
I
Yeah.
like
like
that
the
one quite a
frog.
bit.
I like the frog. I don't know why, but I was like, that's a cool design. It stood out from all the others. It was just so weird and unexpected. I'm like, why is there a frog puppet? Like, why? What would Andre Toulon as a Nazi? Why would he be making a frog puppet? Maybe that has some sort of symbolism or meaning that I'm not aware of. But it was just weird. So I like the frog puppet. Happy amphibian, I
uh,
guess.
Even though he does absolutely nothing in this movie, I think I like the like the groundhog puppet with the tunneler blade on his head for who does nothing. Like I don't think he kills anyone. I think he's just there in a shot at some point in the movie.
He's your
Um,
jester.
yeah,
He's
too
your
bad we're never
jester.
gonna see him again.
Yeah.
Uh,
We'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so like everyone's gone back to the hotel, and the first batch of killings have occurred. Um, the cops have got everyone to come downstairs into like the lobby, and he says like no one is leaving. Like we are not letting anyone go because now there are thefts and murders, and we have to interview all of you. And ultimately, like the power starts going out, and people panic and run out. And then at this point, the puppets stop committing hate crimes, and they just start killing indiscriminately to like stop the witnesses. So there's another extended scene of people out in the parking lot trying to drive away, and the puppets killing them. Like there's a blonde girl that Markowitz was hitting on earlier, and she's in her car, and Pinhead comes up behind her and like puts his hands into the side of her skull and like rips the top of her skull off. uh Tumblr
Looks
kills
cool. The
people,
gore
Blade
looks
kills
pretty
people.
cool in this
Yes,
Yep.
movie.
Yep.
absolutely.
Totally.
So all of these people are outside. There's a character named Cuddly Bear, and Cuddly Bear is awesome. And so Cuddly Bear is like a big like kind of like burly, strong bartender dude, and he's outside. He tries to flee, and so there he sees a kid whose parents have just died, and he's like, "All right, kid, come with me." And then they're like the helicopter puppet that Borp likes, uh, just swings by. And when Cuddly Bear gets back into the hotel, because people are like they realize they can't escape, so they're fleeing back in the hotel. And when Cuddly Bear gets into the hotel, he turns around and it's just the child's like severed hands hanging onto the back of his shirt. Awesome.
What I think is funny about this is they actually try to explain this later on because when they kind of come to the realization, oh, the puppets are targeting minorities, and it's the hate crime aspect of it. They actually bring up, well, what about all those people out there? And they're like, well, they just had to do that because they were trying
Yeah,
they were trying to escape.
witnesses.
Yeah, and it was just so funny because it's a way to like up the body count without basically saying like we're only going to kill minorities in this movie. We're going to come up with a reason why everybody is going to be murdered by these puppets, which was something at least.
Yep. So now everyone like the second like wave of like remaining survivors, they're back in the hotel and they're going to try to hatch a plan. Uh, and the plan is Markowitz. Like he wants to avenge the Holocaust, and he wants to kill all of these Nazi puppets. And so they have a plan where they are going to catch a puppet, take it apart, figure out how it's alive, and which means they will also figure out how to kill it. And so he goes out to be bait essentially. They successfully catch a puppet, but right when they're trying to figure out a plan to off the puppets, suddenly one of the human characters pulls out a gun and starts killing people. Like, is this the bad guy from Die Hard? Because that's who I thought. That's what he looked like. The guy that not Alan Rickman, obviously.
Oh,
like the
Like
guy that gets
Hans
hanged.
or
Yeah,
I don't
I don't
know.
know. I don't know if that's him or not, but he's like a tall, lanky dude with long blonde hair. So he reminded me of the guy that Urkel's dad kills at the end of Die Hard. Anyways, so why did this guy turn on his fellow humans? Well, it's because there is a baby doll puppet named the Little Führer, and so it's just a baby doll with a Hitler head on it. In this, there's a scene earlier on where this Hitler baby doll attacks this guy from behind, like rips the skin off his back and crawls into his body. And so he is now like this baby doll Hitler puppet is now puppeteering this other person and like gets him to shoot a bunch of the remaining humans. And so they take down this traitor guy, and then they look at him and they pull out the baby doll, and someone's just like, oh, that's the Little Fuhrer. Like there's a book that just like lists all of the names of these puppets. Oh, are there boobs in the background? Like what are
There's
we seeing
titties,
here
yeah,
now?
yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, all right.
The hot, short-haired blonde was getting it, so I needed to fast forward so I don't have to put
Was
a
that
censor.
Ashley the girlfriend? Because yeah, she was
Yep.
she was doing it
Yeah,
for me.
Yep.
yeah.
Um,
It's the short hair, man.
anyway, so at this point everyone's panicking. Like we just have to like we can't stay together because I guess there could be other like puppet infected people. The puppets, they're going to get us if we stay together. So let's everyone run to your own separate hiding places and try to hide there. We haven't mentioned it, I don't think, but like Barbara Crampton, who again is like the cop that killed Toulon back in the 30s, she's also like among the humans that are hanging out at this hotel. She doesn't really do a whole lot, but she's there. But now, like all the people have like split up. Puppets are attacking people like kind of individually, and then we have like our four remaining like main characters. So it's Edgar, his girlfriend Ashley, Markowitz, and a girl that Markowitz was hitting on named Narissa. And so the four of them are in a room together. They hear someone calling for help, and Markowitz and Edgar decide they're going to go be big damn heroes. And they find a woman who was calling for help, but now she's dead, and she has been like. There's a puppet that's jumping up and down on her, and this puppet's design is like a gas pump with an accordion body and like just a random like round head, and its nose is like the point like a gas pump, and it's jumping up and down on this corpse, and as it's jumping up and down, blood is like spraying out of its gas pump nose. Completely random. I don't know that we ever see this puppet again.
I
Uh,
don't think we do. No.
but then like Markowitz and Edgar are like, "Fuck this, we're leaving." So the four of them are just going to try to like wait it out, wait for help to come. Everyone else is being attacked, and then I think Tunneler like drills a hole in the ceiling, instead of Tunneler, like Blade falls down and kills Markowitz.
That's what I
Uh,
like. I like about this movie is, so often in the other Puppet Master movies, we just see the puppets at like foot level, right? Like they'll slash a Achilles tendon or something, and then the people fall. I actually like in this one multiple times they're coming through the ceiling and dropping
yeah,
down on people and slicing their throats and stuff like that. That was a cool way to sort of show a new way that the puppets could attack rather than just being waiting for
the
someone to fall
puppets
to the
are
floor
like
or something.
very well animated in this. It's not the Charles Band special where you put them on like a
Yeah.
dolly of some sort and then fill them from waist up and you just pull the dolly to simulate them moving. Like they're actually animated in this film, and it's so
Yeah.
refreshing to see puppets actually move around and do things.
I mean,
But Mark,
I think.
sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
no, I wonder if it's last episode or the episode before that we talked about. Okay, what do we want them to do with these films? And I think we basically said this, like, just come up with cool ways that the puppets can kill people, work
Yeah.
around that, and then you have like a good foundation. Not that this movie is like perfect, but like they figured out how to make this entertaining again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
100%.
feels like S. Craig Zoller was a fan of this franchise, probably rewatched them and realized, wow, this is not nearly as cool as I remembered it being. This is what I remembered it being in my head, right? From when I was a
Right.
kid, I remember this. So we're just going to show people, we're going to give people this.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that's like to watch through this series and think, wow, this actually kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Uh, So, anyways, Markowitz is dying. He has like last words with Narissa. It's like Markowitz has been like a creeper throughout this movie. Like he just like casually tells Ashley like, "Hey Ashley, you know what would be entertaining if you just walked around topless? How about you find me another 7 out of 10 for me to date?" He's just
Well, he tells
brutal.
he's like as he's dying, he's like, "Well, would you have banged me if I would have been nice to you and brought you home?" She's like, 60% chance or something like
And
that. So
Markowitz is like, "That's good enough for me."
yeah.
And then he dies. And his last words are like, "Edgar, when you go to like, when you start writing comics again, write me into them and tell everyone that I was the greatest Jewish hero." Like he's great. He's a creeper, but he's also great in many of his scenes. And so then. And Markowitz just tells him like, you just got to go, like jump out of the window, like there's a dumpster down there, like jump and save yourselves. And so it's so
It's the best part of the movie. This is the best part of the
okay.
movie.
So let me set this up. There's a dumpster right below their window. They're on like the second floor, maybe the third floor. I don't know. It's quite the leap. But there is a dumpster and it's full of garbage bags, which apparently are filled with very soft garbage. And so Edgar leaps out, and then Ashley jumps out, and it's Narissa's turn. And you think like the fact that they left her behind, you think, oh, a puppet's gonna get her. Either a puppet's going to like pull her back in and kill her, or the puppets are gonna push her so she misses her jump. No, she just jumps and misses on her own, and so she jumps out and just collides with like the side of the dumpster and then bounces off and is dead. And when this happened, I actually out loud went, "Holy shit!" Like I was not expecting that whatsoever.
It looks
There's
it looks
another
it
moment.
looks it looks painful when it happens
Yeah,
too, because it's like them a bam right on the edge of
yeah.
that thing, and her
She
face is all
lands
fucked up.
face first onto like the side wall of a dumpster and bounces off and is dead. And like I said, I like loudly yelled, "Holy shit!" And there's another moment where I yelled that later on in the movie that we'll get to. So Edgar and Ashley are like, well, like fuck it, like we know Toulon is doing this somehow. I think early on, like when they go to call the cops, they hear like Toulon's voice on the line speaking in German and telling the puppets to remain in the shadows. And so Edgar's like somehow Toulon is behind this. We got to go back to Toulon's mansion. And so the two of them drive off to Toulon's mansion. Meanwhile, all of the rest of the survivors in the hotel are just being picked off one by one by the puppets. There's another extended scene of puppets attacking people. I think we got more puppet attacks in this movie, in this one movie, than like the entirety of like the Axis, I guess, quadrilogy
Oh, for
that
sure.
we've been watching. And so Edgar and Ashley drive their truck into this crypt that Toulon is in, and then Toulon comes out, and this is not explained, but Toulon is like this grotesque monster now with like metal spikes coming out of him, and so the Toulon monster like starts choking Ashley. Edgar hits him in the head with a pipe. By the way, like when they crash the truck into the to this crypt, all the puppets just like kind of fall over and die, or at least are
Didn't they
inactive.
say it was something to do with the bars or something? Like they were trying to do
Yeah,
something that would cause the energy to stop
yeah, I think
flowing or
they've
something.
recognized that somehow, because even like early on when we first see this crypt, Edgar mentions that like those weird metal bars coming out of it like look like a strange part of the design. So he's put two and two together and knows that this crypt is. I don't know that they ever explain it, but he's recognized that the crypt is the problem. We gotta go destroy it. And so he drives into the crypt. The Toulon monster comes out, starts choking Ashley. Edgar hits him with a pipe. And there's a scene early on where they actually capture a puppet and take it apart, and there's this like glowing purple energy inside of it. And when Edgar hits Toulon in the head, like you see like there's like that same like glowing energy inside Toulon. So very clearly like these puppets are directly connected to Toulon somehow. Again, there's no green reanimator juice. So Edgar hits Toulon and protects Ashley, and then the Toulon monster goes over to like a Nazi memorabilia box, pulls out a gun, and shoots Ashley in the head. And this is another moment where I went, "Holy shit!" Like I was
Right.
not
Totally.
expecting that. Um, and so the Toulon monster just walks away, like it's still alive. It hasn't been dealt with. And then we cut to Edgar in comic shop again, and he has written a new issue of his comic called Madam Lightning, and he has written the puppet story into his comics. And then the kids are like, oh, are you, and he's doing like an autograph or a signing, and the kids are like, oh, are you going to write more? And he's like, yeah, I think I will. Like, I this needs to have a conclusion. And then to be continued pops up on the screen, and that's the end of the movie.
In big
Spoiler, it will
letters.
never to be
Yep.
continued.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
Thoughts, opinions. Oh, there's a stinger where Cuddly Bear ends up surviving and goes home to his wife. That's it.
Oh, I think I missed that.
It didn't add much. It's just
okay,
Cuddly Bear's a
okay.
cool character.
Yeah. I thought it was nice that they did that. They like subverted expectations twice. One in that comedic way with the girl jumping out of the window and then falling onto the trash. And falling down and ending up killing herself. And then at the end, Ashley gets killed. And I remember like being like, "Oh man, what a bummer! I wanted her to survive." And that's the first time I've had that thought when watching these films. We're seven films in. This is the first time I actually had any sort of emotion that
And
a character died.
If you would watch them in release order, you'd be on like movie 12 before.
Yeah, right. So I like that. And yeah, I think this is my favorite one we've watched so far.
Yeah, I will echo what you said about. I don't know who the actress is who played Ashley, but she was really funny. She was charming. She was just likable, and so when that happened, it's just like, oh no, you feel terrible. That's subverting expectations in a positive way, where you're not changing the fundamental nature of the character to subvert expectations. Ryan fucking Johnson, but you're subverting expectations of what you're expecting to happen in the film itself, which is the proper way to actually do it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool. And when it was to be continued at the very end, I was like, man, I'm excited to see what happens. You get on Google, like, okay, when's the next one coming out? Because this came out in 2018. It's like, this has been like 6 years now. And then you find out it's never coming out. There's not going to be another one.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a fun film.
Some crimes were perhaps
allegedly
swept under alleged crimes.
Allegedly.
We don't know because we looked up the abuser, the alleged abuser, and couldn't find any records. But some alleged crimes were possibly swept under the rug by people that made this movie, and so everyone involved with it, like especially Barbara Crampton and many others have basically like disowned this, and there will never be a sequel.
And that's sad.
The whole production company, Cinestate, it was a whole thing. They owned Fangoria at the time. This was a huge scandal at the time. And basically, the reason why everything collapsed in so spectacularly was that there was clear evidence brought up through journalism that they had covered up this huge these crimes that happen in connection with this movie in particular. And that's one of those things where you're like, so many people involved were like very clearly shown that they should not have the responsibility to produce movies on this level, right? If they like can't protect their employees. So a lot of people walked, and then they just decided to shut the whole thing down, which is a shame because Cinestate made some really cool movies.
Well, it's interesting because, like I said, we just did some Google search and the stuff. The alleged abuser was never convicted of anything that we can tell. There's no news articles. He's not on the sex offender registry in Texas. He I don't even know what ended up happening. It could have been all dropped. Who knows?
I don't necessarily think like that's the most important part. The important part was like the cover up.
The cover up's always worse than the crime, right?
Well, right, because this person, it was like a continued behavior, and he was allowed to continue working on these films.
Matt, boobs.
Oh yeah. Sorry, thanks. Let's. You get your nudity. You get your violence. This one. He's banging her right up there against the window. All right, let me fast forward to subtitles. No. God dang it. There we go. I think. Yeah, there we go. All right.
But it's like it does also talk because I think they were really onto something with this. I think like a part 2 of this could have been really good if they like. I don't want to put all the blame on these two directors, but if they had some better direction,
Can you imagine if S. Craig Zoller had directed this? How much better it would have
right.
been. It would have been
What
fucking
scares
great.
me? What if Charles Band tries to make a sequel to this?
Well, I'm curious who has the rights to it. I know
Yeah.
Cinestate kind of went out of business, but why couldn't somebody make a sequel to this? I guess it's a rights issue and who
Penis.
technically owns them. Okay, I'll just put up the censor bar. Fuck it.
Yeah, I think I love this movie. Like everyone in it was so good, and everyone brought like something different to the table. Like Edgar is just this super like great deadpan delivery guy.
Yeah, super.
Ashley's probably my favorite character in this movie. Like she was just like at every point, like she was the foil to someone being an asshole, whether it was Markowitz, whether it was the cop. Like there's a great
Oh, I
scene
love
where
that cop. The one of the cop where he's like, "What were you doing?" And she's like, "We were fucking 11 times since last Tuesday."
Yeah, like the cop.
Great.
The cop is like the cop. Like this is before the murders start happening, and so Edgar has called the cops and said, my puppet's been stolen, and the cop is a dick. He just constantly refers to it as a doll, no matter how many times Edgar corrects him, and then he's like, "Oh, did your girlfriend know the value of the doll?" And they're like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Oh, like did he how soon after the first time you slept together did she learn the value?" And Edgar's like, that has like, why do you need to know that? Like, and he's like, just tell me, how soon after you guys banged did she learn the value of this doll? And Ashley just cuts him off. It's like, yeah, it was fucking like 3 times that first week, 11 times in the last week. What else do you want to know? It just like completely shuts him down. And multiple times in this movie, like she like shuts down someone being a dick.
So it makes it so sad when she dies.
Yes.
It's bad.
Markowitz is creepy, but also has heroic moments. And then he's a failed womanizer essentially. And then he meets Narissa. Narissa is great. Narissa is not putting up with his shit. Like all the main characters in this movie are great, and you're legitimately sad when they're gone. There's an
It's well
argument
written.
there's an argument for me that this is the best Puppet Master movie.
Well, that's going to bring up an interesting question because we put this Puppet Master movie in before we get to the original, and then part 2, etc., which we feel like probably are traditionally recognized as the high points of the franchise. Are we going to watch like the original and part 2 now in light of this and be like, you know what? This actually wasn't as good as we thought because it didn't give us what we wanted. We actually want this. We want more of this, and we are not getting that the rest of the time. Now, obviously, in 1 and 2, the puppets are still bad guys, essentially. So we get that sort of thing, but you're not going to get the over-the-top crazy hijinks, the crazy gore, or anything like that. And will that lessen how we feel about them?
I remember 1 and 2 like having much more puppets and much more gore, but I also like in my head they're also like definitely more of a slow burn than this one was.
Oh yeah,
Like this movie,
yeah.
It's an hour and a half long, and I'd say the entire last hour the puppets are threatening the humans.
Yeah. I'll be interested how Borp, how you see the original and part 2 in relation to something like this because they are very different. I remember the first one. I feel it can't. Is it 2 hours? Close to 2 hours? I don't know. It's a longer movie. I feel, but at least it feels that way because there's a lot of talking and backstory and stuff. And you're right, Steve. There's not a ton of like puppet stuff. Certainly not like this movie where puppets are just murdering people left and right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this colors our view of the rest.
Borp, final thoughts.
I'm excited to get into the next couple of movies here. I obviously it's not going to be as crazy as this one, but I did enjoy part 3 as well. I had a really good time with this film. I think for me, what I liked the most was like the humor of it. It's like this very dark humor that is. Matt, you put it the best, I think, where it's like it's reaching trauma levels of insanity. So like even when something wildly offensive happens, you're like, okay, sure, I guess we're doing this. It's like it's
Right.
so completely outrageous. So yeah, I had a really good time.
Yeah. I would be interested to see what Rachel thinks of this movie. Like, we should still have her watch it, and because
And report back.
I think
Get
she would
a
actually.
special Rachel report to add on the end of this recording.
I think Rachel would end up finding some value in this movie. Bigger picture of what what this movie's ultimately sort of trying to say about, certain aspects of thinking, how people think of others. I think she'd find it actually interesting and whatnot. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching another episode of Full Moon Fridays here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. In the next couple weeks, we will be back with the original Puppet Master movie from like 1989. This is the movie that kicked off Full Moon. It was their first film after Charles Band's Empire went bankrupt. He started Full Moon. He put out Puppet Master, and that was the catalyst for the next 7 years of wealth and rock starness that Charles Band became before he then bankrupted his companies again multiple times. So we'll check it out, ladies and gentlemen, next week. The original Puppet Master. See you then.